Today, my talk title is simply Great Questions to Ask Yourself. You see, because I've learned that the quality of our questions determines the trajectory of our life experience. But too often, we're not asking quality questions. We're asking, why did this happen to me? Why is that going on? Why is this going on? Absolutely worthless question. Let's start looking at some questions that I think can benefit you. In any situation, the most important question we ask ourselves is, am I feeling? No, wait, let me rephrase that. It's just coming to me a little bit differently. Am I this feeling I'm experiencing, or am I the one that is having this feeling? Do you see the question? Am I the feeling, or am I the observer of me having that feeling? There's a very different thing there. Because I don't know about you, but in most situations that may be going really well, I think I'm that feeling of joy. But that's not it. It's just a feeling that I'm experiencing. I'm observing me having that. And then when I get very disappointed or I get angry or whatever that feeling is, I'm grieving. Am I that feeling? So this is about separating yourself from the feeling. And what is the feeling? The feeling is an emotion that you've attached to a type of event based on past experience. But it's not who you are. You're the observer. And that's a really big thing to understand. And yet it's one of our greatest challenges. The other day I was driving and I was going past a high school near my home. And in front of me on the sidewalk, maybe 50 yards ahead, was a young teenager driving one of these electric scooters. Well, apparently he was looking at his phone while driving it. He hit something, a curb, he hit a raised piece of concrete or something, and that scooter went flipping, and he went flipping. And he was lying on the ground. I pulled over, put on my blinkers, got out. Another woman got out. I said, call emergency. She called. I went over. Blood was gushing out from him. And I really said, okay, I'm observing. I need to be in my observer mode. And the police officer came, asked what happened. I shared with him. The young man who was unconscious now started coming out, and he was there. And I just looked at him and I touched his hand. I said, breathe. I said, everything's going to be okay. I wanted him to breathe, to realize he's not the person having the pain, but he's really the observer. And then within 5 minutes, his mother shows up. And she started to panic, and I gently touched her on the shoulder and said, breathe again. I didn't say, step out and be the observer, but what I do know is that the breath can take us out of the emotion, and we can separate from it when we breathe. The ambulance came, and eventually they took him to the hospital. I did my prayer work. I believe he had a concussion. And you know what? It's a life lesson. When he thinks back, hopefully he can recognize, maybe I could have been more aware by not being on my phone as I'm driving on the scooter. But that's true about everyone. How many people out there text while they're driving? That's not a very smart level of awareness to be in, because a half a second can cause something that you'll regret the rest of your life. So it's real important to remember, are you the feeling, or are you observing you having the feeling? Next, what is it that I'm attached to that is keeping me out of the present moment? Am I dealing with the past? Am I worried about the future, that most likely 99% of the things I worry about will never, ever happen in my life? What am I attached to? What prior experience, what expectation have I bought into? And then not only that, is the expectation I bought into, is it my own? Is it my mom and dad's that I got when I was a kid? Is it the schools? It could be one of many things. But if I'm having and not able to be present in the moment, I'm dealing with the past or the future, what is it I'm attached to? Could it be I'm being a people pleaser? That's one of the things I could talk about for hours and hours and hours. Being a people pleaser is the greatest challenge that most of us have, because we're not meant to please other people, because the truth is we can't. The only person we can please is ourselves. How do you please yourself? Ask quality questions. And with the quality question, bring yourself into the present moment. If something happened 5 days ago and you're still thinking about it now, ask the question, is there anything I can do about it now to change what I'm perceiving? If there is, do that, because now you're in the present moment. But don't keep thinking about what happened and regretting what happened a week ago. You can't change it. You've got to accept it and you've got to move forward. Looking at life a little differently here. Why do I feel a need to defend myself to prove I'm right? I took debate in high school, and I was taught how to debate things. I participated in competitive speaking with extemporaneous speaking to prove a point. What I've come to understand is you'll never change anyone's mind by anything you say. And if you're defending yourself, you might offer an explanation. When someone says, why did you do that? And that person's important enough to you, you can offer an explanation. This was my logic in doing it. But that doesn't mean you defend yourself. Because if you defend yourself, you're blocking off any other wisdom, any other insights. You're stuck in this idea that, wait a second, if you're defending yourself, are you putting that person you're defending yourself to above you? Are you putting them on a pedestal? Or are you asking someone else to defend themselves to you? Are you putting them below you? The truth of the matter is we're all unique. No one is above, no one is below. And what I've come to understand is if I'm defending myself, it means I have a lack of self-worth. Because if I truly felt worthy, I would offer my explanation in the right situation. But I wouldn't defend myself. I would simply say, this is how I saw it. This is why I responded the way I did. And if someone gives you something more to consider, now you can consider it because you don't have to defend yourself. My wife all the time will say to me, Lee, this needs to change. And she'll explain why. And I'll listen. I'll offer her an explanation as to why I'm that way, why I responded that way. But I never defend myself to her. I give her my explanation, then I listen to what she has to say. And if it's got value, I just implement it. I don't feel I'm in a position where I need to go back and say, well, I screwed up, I did this, now I'm going to do this. No, that talk is cheap. I simply change. And it's wonderful because that's the arrangement we've created for each other. So I know in the corporate world, you're taught to defend yourself. Cover your butt. Do this, do that. If you're doing your very best in every moment, your best for that moment, you will never feel the need to defend yourself. I think it's time we give that up. When something happens, here's a great question. What is it about me that attracted this situation into my life at this time? Or you could even rephrase it and say, what is it about me that's attracted my response to this situation in my life at this time? Because situations are going to occur, and you've done nothing to attract them in your life. Nothing at all. But your response to the situation is under your control. I know that so many people have had horrific experiences in their life, simply because of where they were, who they were with, at the wrong time and the wrong place without the power to take control. Could be a child and they get abused, and for the rest of their life they're screwed up. But can you talk to that child, or as they grow up, and say, you weren't at fault. You did nothing. You didn't attract the situation. You were just in the wrong place, and there's nothing you could have done about it. But how you go forward with your life now, that's a different story. See, it's not what happens to you. It's how you deal with it. How do you respond to it? That's the key thing. The question by asking about what about me has attracted this response, you're going to end up, when asking that question, finding out you're attached to some unrealistic expectation about life for yourself, or unrealistic expectation about life for someone else. And when you can understand that, it brings a different sense of clarity through which you can see life differently. As we move through life, one of my favorite things is to know who I am and what is most important to me. And once I made that determination, then I ask the question, do I know what my highest values are? And am I doing my best to live up to what I feel is most important in my life? Most people don't know what's most important to them. What they say is, for me at one time it was rising up through the corporate ladder. Well, that's because my parents and society implemented that into me and I blindly adopted that. And while I was doing that, I lived up to that. I did my best. But then as I got older and I discovered what my values are, I realized rising up through the corporate ladder was not a high value to me. So I gave it up. I ended up leaving the corporate world, getting an education, becoming a teacher like I am right now, speaking to you. So what I'm doing right now is I'm living up to what I feel is most important in my life. I love to teach. Why do I love to teach? Because I love to learn. And you learn more when you teach. When you're a teacher, you're always looking for fresh insights, fresh material, fresh wisdom. That keeps you alive. My number one value is to become more aware. My number two value is to teach. My number three value is interpersonal connection. So I am doing what I love the most. And in doing it, I do my best. The best I can do in that moment. Another great question to ask ourselves is, are the people in my life supporting and growing me? And is my relationship with them reciprocal? I truly believe that the only purpose to be in a relationship is to support and grow each other, to share, and to have fun. But if there's no support and growth, I don't waste a lot of time with that relationship. That's just something very, very casual. And when you understand that time is your most important value, your most important resource, you're not going to waste your time doing things that don't serve you. So the people that are in my life, they're there because we have a reciprocal relationship of support and growth. And we share. And while doing it, we have fun. And it's a tough question because you may have people in your life that all you are doing with them is gossiping. I'm going to tell you, gossiping and complaining are a complete, utter waste of time. I've lost a lot of people in my life as I cut that out. I gave them opportunities, I was nice about it, but eventually if it wasn't a support and growing relationship, I just let it go. I didn't have to be hard on anything, I just didn't give it time. I didn't give it energy. And when you don't give something time and energy, it can't live. It's like you're not watering the plant. So know that you want to be choosy about the people you let in your life. Here's a great question. Am I willing to forgive myself to set me free from a past that no longer exists? You see, people get confused and they think that forgiveness is about forgiving the other person. It's about letting them off the hook. No, it's not. Forgiveness is you being able to see that that event had as much good come out of it as bad. And when you can see as much good as the perceived bad, now that event has no emotional charge. If it has no emotional charge, you can take the lesson with you and live your life, but you don't take the negative emotion. And when you don't take the negative emotion, you're free from the past. But if you've got an event, a person that you keep dragging forward over and over again into your life, rest assured, you've got some forgiveness work to do. And then I think, as I reflect every morning, if I were to begin to change anything in my life right now, what would it be and where would I begin? Not where do I end up, not seeing something so vast, so big that I can't even begin to comprehend it, so I'll immediately self-sabotage. But what little thing can I do? It might be, let's say today, how can I be a little kinder? And where can I begin? It could be in the tone I use talking to my wife, to my children, to my granddaughter, to the people that I interact with. It could be letting someone, while I'm driving, just merge in front of me, even though I think they're being a horse's patoot. It all starts with simple steps. It is not grand. It's not running the fastest way. It's running a persistent and consistent path in your life. And every day is a new beginning. So if you ask the question, who do I want to be? How do I want to show up in my life? And what's the next step I can take? That question will empower you. You see, when we understand the value of asking empowering questions, we will begin to question everything and begin to consciously create a meaningful and self-fulfilling life. And that's truly what each of us want. At the end of the day, we want to be fulfilled. We want to be able to express gratitude from our own heart. The gratitude that others express to us, that's nice. But if we can be grateful, that's the creme de la creme. So, question everything. Every day, question everything. Plato said, every morning empty the thoughts out of your mind and one by one examine them to see if they're still of value to you and where you want your life to go and who you want to become. I invite you to follow the wisdom of Plato.